Oh boy, it's Sonic the Hedgehog, the blue, blurry, blistering, speed-running rodent many love around the world. This game's a legend. Came out for the Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive, if you owe the pond there, Gov. Sorry, I suck at British. In the year of our Lord, 1991, a solid 6 years after the original Super Mario Bros. Game came out on the NES. Super Mario Bros. Made gaming history itself by not only being a very fun game that would set a precedence of platformers going forward with iconic characters and locations, but also saved the gaming industry as a whole, along with the release of the NES internationally, when gaming was thought to die due to the video game crash of 1983. Why am I bringing up Mario? Well, because both him and Sonic were, and probably still are, the greatest video game rivals of all time, and Super Mario Bros. Actually played a role in the concept and mechanics of the original Sonic the Hedgehog game. Sonic's very first stage, and the idea for speed being a focal point, was inspired by trying to beat World 1-1 as fast as possible after playing through it so many times, which was implemented in trying to get through each stage as quickly as possible once you learned more about it. This game, albeit flawed, is still very important for gaming history and fascinatingly designed. Let's dial back for a second. Surely you've heard of this character before, right? Well, I mean, if you haven't, then you probably wouldn't be watching this video, yeah? A long while back, Sega was brainstorming and searching for a mascot that they could use for the company and could rival Nintendo's Mario during the upcoming console wars. So after some time of trying to find a good mascot for themselves, they ran through several ideas including a rabbit and an armadillo, who later became Mighty the Armadillo, shown later in the US via Knuckles Chaotix on the Sega 32X. The Sega 32X is like another type of add-on for the Sega Genesis, as well as the Sega CD, but I'm not really going to get into that, maybe in another video, but for now, let's just focus on Sonic. At some point, they were even thinking of settling on an egg-shaped Theodore Roosevelt caricature. Then they thought, nah, let's make him a villain, and eventually landed upon everyone's favorite Speedy Hedgehog, Mr. Needlemouse. Which, funny enough, was actually an alias for Sonic at some point. They even thought about controversial ideas like giving Sonic a human girlfriend named Madonna, but they thankfully scrapped that idea entirely. Huh. Instead of smashing his hands against bricks, Sonic has to hit monitors that hold his power-ups, including a shield to take an extra hit, power sneakers or high-speed shoes to go faster than top speed in an instant, and although it's not technically a power-up, there is a monitor full of rings that can help you in a pinch. And invincibility, letting you run through enemies and jump on spikes without a care in the world. Just don't fall into any pits.
Ooh.
I don't know what this is. It's a star! Thought I could walk on the spikes.
Something I almost forgot was that if you have 50 rings at the end of each stage, you're actually able to jump into a ring portal and get a Chaos Emerald via a really trippy special stage. If you collect all 6 Chaos Emeralds, then you get...
Nothing! Now get out!
What?
Well, you technically get a happy ending, but really it just makes a bunch of plants go around and then Sonic's extra happy. Yay. A fun thing about Sonic's gameplay is that he jumps differently than most characters in your average platformer. He rolls into a ball as he jumps, which is required to beat enemies as opposed to jumping on them or firing an attack. This ball shape can also be done when rolling around by holding down on the D-pad during movement or landing, which can be really fun as you zip across the loops and such. Another difference between him and Mario is while Mario had mushrooms and fire flowers to let him take an extra hit, Sonic can collect rings which act as your health system. If you get hit once while holding any amount of rings, you drop them all and need to try to recollect them or find other rings, because if you get hit one more time with no rings, then... it's not pretty. You can get extra lives from getting 100 rings or from monitors with Sonic's face on them. If you run out of lives, then it's game over. Pretty standard stuff, and the gameplay can be pretty engaging.
Okay, so Sonic's his name and speed's his game. It's all about going fast, right?
Well, not exactly. See, the game developers wanted to actually make speed the reward of you getting to know the gameplay mechanics, the level design, and mastering them over time through trial and error. This game teaches you that making mistakes is okay as long as you learn from them. Sure, it can be frustrating at times. Okay, most of the time. But it teaches you some patience, ironically enough, and it becomes so satisfying when you get the hang of beating these levels and learning how to get faster and faster at them. They added in some challenge by making you have to jump and curl into a ball in order to take down enemies instead of using your weight to crush your enemies like Mario's fat ass.
Eat a salad.
Before we continue discussing the stages, we should really talk about Sonic's character design and how amazing it is. It's iconic, simple, clean, nice and blue, and exudes 90s attitude. And I love it. He was designed with an American audience already in mind, but for some reason the US decided to change him anyway. They gave him a thicker brow, a chubbier stomach, a grin that never changed in any of their promotional art, making him bow-legged, and giving him a quill mohawk. Very radical and extreme. This design isn't really my cup of hedgehog, but I can respect it, and I understand it definitely has its fans. So what exactly is a Sonic, you ask? Well, if you haven't seen the infinite number of other videos explaining him far better than I ever will, Then I'll give a crack at it for you. Sonic the Hedgehog is a nice shade of blue, anthropomorphic hedgehog who runs really fast. So much so that he can surpass Mach 1, or the speed of sound for those who don't know what Mach is. Mach 5 is 5 times the speed of sound, and is also Speed Racer's car. Anyway, I want to try to avoid getting sidetracked since I'm clearly doing that already. I'll probably review Speed Racer content down the line. It's fun stuff. Sonic was designed by the Chad Naoto Ishima, and impressively so. Blue color to match the color of Sega's amazing logo that screams at you every time you boot up the game. Cool shoes reminiscent of and referencing red shoes based off the guy from the Coca-Cola commercials. A personality like that guy who definitely
did not have sexual relations with that woman.
That coupled with a timeless classic design like traditional Mickey Mouse, pulling off having a character be both cute and cool, and having Western audiences in mind, he became pretty much the perfect character Sega had always wanted. This was the animal that could rival Mario and Nintendo's growing empire. The level designer of the game is Hirokazu Yasuhara. The composer of this game and the second game is Masato Nakamura. Then there was Yuji Naka, who was the lead programmer of the game, as well as the former head of Sonic Team. Let's talk about the first stage, Green Hill Zone. Okay, so this stage is the most iconic in Sonic's history, and it's beautifully designed. However, because of this, Sega has thought to add it into practically every game, which has clearly upsetted several fans. Or maybe some Sonic fans are just like that. I'm kidding. Mostly. Regardless, this zone is also one of the most fun in all of the Sonic games, and arguably the only great one in the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Its music? Catchy. Its color and scenery? Amazing. Its design? Phenomenal. Its loop-de-loops? Amazing. The stages in this game have 3 different routes to take, from staying up top, in the middle, or at the bottom. Staying up top is challenging, but you deal with practically no enemies. Staying in the middle is the sweet spot that keeps it perfectly balanced, as all things should be. And the bottom is where you get punished for not getting good, and is difficult to traverse, and typically has more enemies and obstacles. In here, you get to see your first enemies, figure out how to beat them, explore, and then get introduced to the main antagonist, Dr. Eggman, or Robotnik for the Americans of the early years, in Act 3. Speaking of which, all zones in this particular game have 3 acts, which can get grueling after a while. 2 main acts where you go through the level, and then the third where you travel a bit more, and then have to fight the boss at the end. Another great thing about Green Hill is that it introduces you to this charming world where nature thrives, and as the game progresses, it gets more dark and grim, especially by the end where it's practically all machinery and non-organic, showing you what is being lost in the process and what's at stake here. The woodland critters trapped in those badnik bad boys. Maybe at some point I'll come back to this game and go more in depth about each stage. So, as much as we all love Green Hill and many of us want to break from it sometimes, we can't deny how iconic and fun the stage is. It's as recognizable as World 1-1 in Mario, which is also in practically every Mario game. So yeah. Remember everything I just said about how great Green Hill is? Well, Marble Zone is none of that. Okay, I can't be too hard on it, but it slows down the gameplay tremendously and opts for being your average platformer level, when Green Hill here was already making a breakthrough in the genre. The colors are painfully drab compared to Green Hill, and the music, as good as it is, can get grating after a long time if you get stuck on this level, which I admittedly did a lot in my first few playthroughs. That's another thing. While future Sonic Genesis games would amend this, Sonic 1 has 3 acts, like I mentioned before, which make it feel like you're dawdling in the area just a tad bit longer than you should. Like Cybershell said, 2 acts are basically the sweet spot of going through zones so that you can enjoy them, and they don't overstay their welcome. Honestly, each time I replay the game, I kinda dread going to Marble Zone, mainly for how slow it feels compared to the other levels. But we'll get to that. Next up is Spring Yard Zone, which is honestly kinda fun. There are springs in a lot of places, as you may have guessed from the name. You bounce all around the place and have to avoid even more obstacles and a really annoying armadillo badnik. Compared to Green Hill, colors are still a bit lacking, but like in any level, it also has really good music, which was a given. Overall, not a bad one at all. It also strangely says the word cope in the background, which I personally believe is talking about dealing with what's to come. So, we have the fast-paced Green Hill, the slow as molasses Marble Zone, and then a fairly fast Spring Yard Zone. Surely the next zone won't be as slow as Marble Zone, right? I was wrong. Labyrinth Zone, as cool as it sounds, is a painfully slow area where Sonic has to tread water. Sonic and water aren't really friends. Even though hedgehogs are actually really good swimmers. Guess Sega skipped animal biology class and Sonic skipped his swimming lessons at the YMCA. The whole stage is practically underwater, making Sonic move slower than a sloth, and not only can he not build up speed anymore, he can even drown now. How, you ask? Easy. They play really suspenseful music that builds up in speed and sounds so desperate that I can't help but speak faster as it builds up, and I'm starting to get nervous as I listen to it. Please stop. Okay. Just breathe. I'm good. I think it gave every kid who played this game an anxiety disorder from that drowning music alone. The music for the stage is really good, but since you might be here a while like in Marble Zone, It too stays longer than your relatives saying goodbye to everyone at a party, which hits really close to home to me because I'm Hispanic. Anyways, next up is Starlight Zone, which has a really nice aesthetic with the stars above, but no real colors around except the cold gray of machinery around. Even so, the stage looks rather nice for what it's worth. It brings back the fun loops, but they're sort of weird as they're not quite the same shape. Like in Green Hill, they were circular-ish, but in Starlight Zone, they're, for whatever reason, oval-ish. I'm great at geometry. The area is designed to be fast-paced once again. There's also a new walking bomb badnik that's really annoying to deal with since it blows up and then its little tiny bomb pieces, shrapnel stuff, fly in both directions with a far reach. Overall, it's a really fun stage, for all that it's worth, and it's worth a pretty decent amount in my opinion. As I mentioned before, in every other stage, the music is really nice and sounds especially great orchestrally. I honestly wish they did a lot more with Starlight Zone since it could have looked so much nicer. Now, we move on to the final stage, Scrap Brain Zone. The music, once again, great, but this zone shows no mercy. It's basically the Cobra Kai of Sonic 1.
Quiet!
I lost most of my lives during my few playthroughs in Scrap Brain out of all the zones combined. And I'm not exaggerating. All of the annoying or bad parts of the other stages are all present here. Not to mention some new fun stuff like electricity on the ceiling and on the floor, flamethrowers, floors that open up suddenly, small spinning floors, disappearing floors, so many floors! The usual BS is present, but all that added stuff and the annoying explosive badnik making his comeback make it a rather difficult and frustrating level. The aesthetic of the stage is actually really cool though. I like the almost dystopian vibe it gives, with what looks like a polluted city overcome by technology that's killing all surrounding nature in the background and no organic life in sight, minus the usual animals inside the badniks. It creates a sense of hopelessness. This shows that Eggman means business and will destroy all of the thriving nature you saw in Green Hill if he's not stopped. I think the impact of how this zone looks would have hit a lot more had the other zones contained more color and life. Either way, it's a fairly fun stage that can get really annoying sometimes, but at least there's no water section. No! So after you go through the hell that is Scrap Brain, you end up on the final zone, simply and appropriately named the Final Zone. It's not so much a zone as it is a small area where you fight Robotnik one last time. With how difficult the game has been at times, and how Scrap Brain led to this very moment, surely the final boss would be the most difficult part of the game. Never mind. Yeah, to most people's surprise, this game's final boss is really easy. All you have to do is dodge the pillars that are trying to squish you, which you can tell as they're moving, dodge the little balls of electricity that drop down on you slowly, and yeah, that's really it. You have to hit Dr. Eggnik every time he shows up inside of a pillar, but that's easy too. Maybe the game had some remorse in the end, who knows. So yeah, that was Son the Hedge 1. Although it has its flaws, it's still a really great game that helped shape video game history to what it is today. Along with Mario and other great games, it really did help set the precedent for a lot of other future games. I highly recommend you all give it a shot to see what it's like. You may be surprised by how it plays. It can be really fun. And for those who have played it, play it again I guess, especially when Sonic Origins is out. You know I'm gonna pick that one up. Or I can get it digitally. Thanks, Sega. Sure, this game isn't perfect, but it's a bunch of fun, like I've said many times already, and really memorable. Plus, it made Mario and Nintendo fans turn their heads when the world thought there would be no one able to take on the portly plumber. And I think we can all agree that Sonic music is always top tier. There's an earworm in each and every game. Thankfully for Sonic, this wouldn't be his only adventure in 2D, which we'll discuss more in upcoming videos. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching, guys. If you agree or disagree with any of this, or have anything you want to add, please let me know down in the comments. I'm honestly really curious about what your thoughts are. Hopefully I was able to get any of you thinking, or maybe even teach you something new, and if I offended any of your thoughts or opinions, I'm sorry, I guess. Wasn't really looking to do that, just wanted to present some info on one of my favorite game series and give some praise and criticism to the entry that started it all. With some humor, if you want to call it that. Or if I want to call it that. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like on it since it would help a lot and it would make my whole day. Hope you all have a great one and take care of yourselves. This is NESShadows signing off.